Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching Win Edition. It's getting a lot easier. Rolls off the tongue a little bit more now, just because we are racking them up as we collect our second win in what, 3 days, 4 days now? I mean, I feel like I'm on cloud nine, Justin. I know, and hey, we're being very, very hyperbolic right now. I'm not going to give it, I'm not going to, blow smoke here, but I'm having fun.
Jake, do you remember that? I think what was it, 2 episodes ago? We were like, "Wow, we definitely got too far ahead of ourselves," and then we came right back crashing down to earth.
Yeah.
I'm scared we're gonna have that again. But you know what, Jake? There's some upcoming games that I think we get some dubs on. We'll talk about that here in a sec. We're gonna do recap of LAFC real quick around the MLS because there was 14 games last night, Jake. So every team but two were in action last night. They're going to give you a DC United preview and round out with our DraftKings, obviously with our bets for the weekend. But Jake, before we get into the Hoffman Brothers starting 11, I got to retweet or delete for you. With those upcoming games, gave a little teaser. We obviously play Houston on Tuesday. So we're going to talk about starting 11 and stuff on Saturday. But we're going to DC, which is a game that you could probably get some points at. And then we're at home at Austin for a day game back at Energizer Park. Jake, retweet or delete. We're going to get another 4 points out of these next two matches.
Oh.
How about this? I'm gonna set the line at 3.5. Would you say over or under?
Yeah, I mean, so you have to. The next 3 games you said. Sorry, so including US Open Cup.
I'm just calling just
Okay.
two.
Just MLS.
United and ATX. US Open Cup's its own beast. That one you got to go balls to the wall for. But I'm talking about these next two MLS games. Can we get over under 3.5 points?
That's a really good one. That might be one of the better ones we've had. You know what? I'm going to start with some negativity because I want to finish strong positively, but I'm going to go under. But I'm going to go under because I think we're going to collect 3 and just 3.
That's what I kind of agree with you there. I think we're both leaning towards that Austin one at home being those 3 points. You think you got to close that one out. That's got to be everything you got. Everything you got. With the 54-day break, I'm going to have to clip that. For anybody who doesn't know that clip for LA Galaxy. Yes, I think we're going to amass those 3 points at home. And then the question is, can we get a point in DC? And we're going to talk about that here at the end. But Jake, bring us into our Hoffman Brothers starting 11, the actual starting 11 for the LAFC game. It was a little bit different one.
Yeah, it was. So this one featured, some same, some new. We got Berkey and Ned. McNaughton got the start in place of Orozco at right center back. Same suspects next to him, Baumgartel, Polvara. Orozco actually stays on the field but elevates to right wing back so we can sit down Wallem for a game, get him some rest. Leuven steps into the midfield. Next to Edelman, Durkin serving his suspension, so wasn't available in this one. Sang Bin starting at that right-sided 10 position alongside Hartel, and then Cordova with the start up top. I think a lot of expectation, Justin. I think we had almost all of these guys playing this exact role in our 11, minus Orozco being slated up. So again, I think this is a good strength, Justin. It did feel to me consistent with what I was hoping, which was that this 11 is probably what we would roll with again on Tuesday next week. Like, I feel like this was DeMay's guys for the most part.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of threw me off, Jake, and I don't know if we got any more details on it, was they said that Wallem had an illness. My opinion, I think they put Orozco over there knowing that that's where Denny Bouanga lines up, and you might as well throw 2 line of defense. 1, Orozco being our best, I would say, best on-ball defender, and then 2, throw McNaughton behind him so if Denny can't just straight up just beat him with a long touch. I don't know about the Wallem tummy issues or whatnot, but yeah, otherwise this was pretty spot on. I think obviously giving Cordova the go. It's another weird one. We have Sang Bin coming out at halftime, but I like the starting spot.
And you got to like a hot start. I mean, Tommy Tots opening up the scoring in the 4th minute with the back post, pretty I would say simple, but we've surprised folks. Tap in from I would say one of my favorite sequences and goals that we've probably scored as St. Louis City SC in our short history, with a long ball through Baumgartel, a great touch over the top from Sang Bin, great composure, lays it off for Hartel, who plays the pass that no one's expecting him to play. Cordova almost makes a dummy of a run onto an on-running Leuven, who centers it for Totland. And you're up within 5 against LAFC, who is very much on the ropes heading into this one. Tired, leggy, not in great form. And not to say that it was enough, Justin, because it clearly wasn't, but you kind of knew that this was probably part of the plan, was to try to get up quickly, because LAFC, I just don't think had the mentality or the fight in them. Yeah, they scored a goal later on, but they weren't in this for a 5-round match, right? 5 of 5. They were one to try to get in, get business done, and get out.
I think this is a team, to be honest, Jake, that and maybe we're giving them benefit of the doubt, but they have played a ton of games and coming in the Champions Cup. They're coming in St. Louis. There's nothing sexy about it. It's a Wednesday night. But Jake, I'm going to quickly share screens. The only thing I still don't like about this, and we saw it a lot during the game, is our center backs, when they're on the ball, they literally stand on the ball. They put a foot on top and they stand there. That is the best thing if you're a defending team to really figure this out. Keep the ball moving, and you can kind of see it here as Baumgartl kind of walks it up. Keeps walking it up. And then, all right, cool. Now I'm glad he didn't play it here because he did that plenty of times tonight to the center defensive holding mids and just a block of LAFC black. But this ball over top, it's a little short. I'm glad that Sang Bin realizes that because he could have easily just said, hey, I'm going to try to take this guy baseline. But the sense the ball held up, he knew the defender is going to be sprinting back and he's going to cut it back on him. Fantastic first touch here from Sang Bin. Cordova making this run. I appreciate it. Not only one, for trying to get in behind, but 2, creating the space for Hartel here, which is something that we've seen a lot, Jake, unfortunately, defensively for us, to where there is just an open space between the back 4 and the center defensive mids, and it's a perfect spot for Hartel here. And Jake, God, this pass, you got Lubin running down the sidelines. Like, I don't even see how he gets this through without hitting with like the outside of his foot to bend it in. And goodbye Cordova to realize like, hey, that's not going to you, man. Now you got to go get in the box. And yes, Tots. Get on the back post. And Jake, if you haven't seen this angle of it yet since we were there, look at this pass from Leuven. How does he find Tommy Tots on the back post here? There's a sliding defender. He's cutting it back in between 2 defenders that maybe has a window of maybe a foot and a half that he slots this ball all the way to the back post. And all Tommy Tots has to do is just make sure he doesn't hit it off the defender. And it goes right in. And Jesus. Energizer Park was absolutely rocking. This is the angle that is incredible. It's like you pause for here. How does he? And it doesn't slot in here inside of the 6. It splits defenders. A little Meg and then a little tap in from Tommy Tots. I was having a great time at Energizer Park. It had been a minute since we had that much energy.
And then we parked the bus for pretty much the rest of the game. And that was the recap. And we'll move on to decent. So, we did, though, right? I mean, I definitely think we took that feather, put it in our cap, and say, okay, we're going to not open ourselves up to transition because LAFC manufactures goals and chances from that. So we kind of drop into more of a compact shape, mid-block, low block, whatever you want to call it. And I think you kind of seed in that way LAFC the ball to really dominate, control tempo. But, we had another flash as well in that first half, but that was one big chance, one shot on target, 1 goal in the first half. You want a clinical team. You want us to improve in that element. We did it in that first half. And that, I think, really, really hurt them from just a mentality point of view. And I also think, Justin, we weathered a little bit of the storm. They had 6 shots in that first half. And I think they started to ramp up that pressure. Roman Berkey was off his line quickly on a nice sun chance that we saw. That got a little bit nervy in some moments here and there. But overall, I think we saw the beginning of what I would call a resolute defense, or a defense that's just not unwilling to put in the work. You know what I mean? Like they rolled up the sleeves and got dirty last night. It was not pretty at all times. Don't get me wrong. But the resilience, yeah, I know they conceded a goal, and we'll talk about that in a sec, Justin. But I think we started to see what this team can do in a pragmatic type approach to a game. Because LAFC, you go toe-to-toe, they'll carve you open, multiple times in this game. But I think we saw a lot more pragmatism in this match from Yohan Demay and crew.
Yeah, and I really do think that, Jake, usually I would say I absolutely hate when we just go park the bus. I don't think it was solely like we get up 1 goal and we said, all right, now everybody back. I do think that it was likely a part of this game plan because you talked about it and you mentioned some tweets on it as well. If you leave LAFC open, that's the best way for them to score, is with their speed and their creativity and getting in behind. And ultimately, that's how they get their goal. But you got to try to make this team play through you by playing in front of you. And I think that's what we did. We really did a low block style to where we're doing like what you want to call it, like a 3-4-2-1, but then it really drops in. Those wing backs, if you watched it, like even Orozco was becoming more of a center back, and like McNaughton or Polvaro was going up as Bouanga went up. So you weren't leaving the last guy with Bouanga. You were letting the guy in front of him take it, and someone else would slide in behind so that they couldn't play that ball over the top or in through. And so I really do think that it was a playing style that we went with. It was not pretty. It was not a lot of fun to watch, but it's something you got to do to get the dub.
And you got to wonder how much of that is impacted by Orozco's early exit. Clearly had some sort of hamstring issue. It does not sound good. We'll talk about that in the injury report coming up here, but you obviously had to put on Santos in this game. And how much of our game plan changed because of just the profile change from Totland on that side versus Santos, because then Totland had to come over and take the place of Orozco. I would love to have seen what this full match would have looked like with Orozco, who's in the form of his life. And of course, things like this happen when that's happening. But you got a halftime in that, 1-0. Hell yes. Absolutely. We will take that. And, the second half opens up, begins with a nice physical edge. Justin, I got to give my kudos here. I got to take a pit stop. Thomas Totland coming over to the opposite side, was not going to play Bouanga 1v1 all day. He was not in the game plan to do so, but steps in for Orozco. I don't think he missed a beat. Yes, Bouanga's going to beat you for once in a while, for sure. But my God, the fact that we were not playing him until what feels like very recently, and now all of a sudden he is wing back number one, and it's not close at the moment. I got to give all the praise in the world to Thomas Totland, who scores the goal, but just the defense, what he offers going forward, the guy's an absolute engine.
And that's the tough part, Jake. It's like, if you think that that's like, oh yeah, well, he's played that position before, he should be able to fit in there. It's like, no, you have been training all week with this game plan, and now it's just gone. And what was it, like the 9th minute? I think it was the 10th minute that Orozco came off, and that is not easy, especially when you're playing a guy like Denny Bouanga, who has scored 20 plus goals in each of the last 3 seasons in the MLS. So a huge step up for Thomas Totland. I mean, obviously he got man of the match for us, and then he made team of the match day as well. But this is one that I think for him, a lot of what he did doesn't even show up on the stat sheet. And like, yes, obviously the goal, that's a big one, but a lot of the defensive work, the marking, the up, the back, this was a huge one for Thomas Totland. And Jake, I think it's at the most important point. I hate to see Orozco go down, but this gives confidence to a guy like Thomas Totland that had not even been in the lineup or even getting minutes earlier this year.
Another thing I like too about this is we get our second, right? And it comes from Santos, who, by the way, love him or hate him on the Santos. And I'm not love him or hate him. I don't really think he offers a lot to the team. But you could tell how much that goal meant to him. And I want to talk about the goal, but I also want to talk about what was right before the goal. And that was Simon Betcher's 0.63 expected goal miss. The ball was fizzed into him from, I believe it was Hartel or Leuven on this one, right?
No, this was Cordova. This is before the goal. It's literally just a mirror image of the actual goal. This is not the goal.
It does look like the goal. Yeah, it does look like it.
And then he gets up. So for anybody that can't see this visually, it was frustrating, right? You see Cordova coming here. I think that this man needs to have a better ball here. I also think he needs to make a better decision on the goal. He's throwing it in just across the box. Yes, Simon's making a run here, but get your head up and pick out this spot right here for Hartel. Drop that there. But what he does here, this is a great run by Simon. He goes in to go for the diving header. This is an incredible flick by the LSC defender on the near post. It gets dropped back to the back post. Santos, I'm going to be honest, Jake, I think he's shooting this. And look, Simon Betcher is still one knee on the ground as Santos is winding up. And what Simon Betcher does is, with this Santos shot, in my opinion, is that he just tries to get something on it, and he's still trying to stand up. And Jesus, it's just unfortunate. He tries to go on the outside of his ankle. And just look at this. We're a yard and a half from the goal, and it goes up over top. In my opinion, Jake, we talked about it with the guys in front of us. I really can't blame him. Like, I think he did well to try to get something on there. I don't think it was like a blatant miss. I think he's getting off the ground, trying to throw his outside of the boot there, but somehow we got to find the back of the net.
Yeah. Again, we're always going to try to paint both sides of this picture. I don't really have much else to say. So much has gone wrong for him this season, and you get the ire that he receives from fans because he's wearing, an 11. He's playing the number 9 for us, and despite a lot of people's desires, but missing these chances game after game, it's going to bite us in the ass at least a couple more times this season if it keeps going on. But again, I can't just point the finger and say it's all on him either. For many of these, it's not easy. He's a better pedigree. He's a higher caliber player. I think he would hold himself accountable in these moments. Like, you got to believe that he would be his toughest critic. And I get every perspective on these, to be honest. I totally get all opinions, especially anyone that's like trying to bash him. I don't like that. But God, it's tough. But what I don't mind and what I actually really do like is legitimately a minute later, we're back in that same exact area, wreaking havoc once again on a profile, on an entrance that we just did, found success in, rinse and repeat, and we were able to get this one passed. So like, it's short-term memory. We talked about it now. I've said it the last 2 episodes. It's like, okay, forget it. Move on. 0.63, that's down the toilet. Let it go. Move on. And now you get up 2-0 on LAFC.
And 2 things on the stat that won't show up on the stat sheet here, Jake. The first thing is this ball by Totland here. Coming up the line, finds Hartel streaking across the middle. It's a leave by Cordova. Great leave. Hartel takes a great touch here, but that ball by Totland is what gets this started. Then you see Hartel take the touch. Cordova, head down, getting in behind. Love to see it. You know what Simon Betcher then is doing? Head down, get behind the back line, that center back. And look, it's pretty much mirror edge. I will pause right here, Jake. This is where I would like Cordova to have a little bit more composure. Let's look at this. He's crossing the ball in to a Simon Betcher that is surrounded by 4 LAFC defenders when he and Hartel could have gone a little 2v1 here. Whatever. He doesn't get his head up. I don't think it's a smart ball. We end up scoring, so fine. But here's what Simon Betcher does that will also not be in the score sheet. Right there. You are getting into the mixer and trying to win a head ball with an incoming Hugo Lloris double fist pump to the dome. And by having that mentality of saying, I'm going to throw my body on the line and try to score this goal, that throws Hugo off. Hugo doesn't get a clean punch. It gets through, it falls, and to Santos that then finishes it. So I want to give a huge shout out to Totland for that ball. I would like Cordova to have a little bit more composure, get his head up, maybe even try to take a guy on or dish it back to Hartel. But then huge shout out. Look at Simon Betcher. He is so happy. It's almost a redemption moment for him as well. That even though he missed that sitter, that even though he was trying to get up off the ground and whatnot, I think that this goal does not happen if he's not making that run. I think Hugo catches that cross.
2 more moments I want to hit on, Justin. Obviously the goal, because Falou Fall comes on for Leuven in this one just a couple minutes later after that second goal, and he's immediately exposed over the top, and LAFC get their goal. There's no way to paint or put any lipstick on that pig. That's really poor defending, and it probably gives you a little bit of a glimpse into maybe what Demey is dealing with in training with him. You know, I still believe in him. I still think he should be playing, but for him to get this limited cameo, get a half hour here, and the first thing he does is get beat over the top and they score their goal. Not good, Falou. Again, I'm not putting a rubber stamp on his career for that, but not good. But one person I don't think people have been talking about a lot online today is Roman Berkey. That sprawling cat-like save, Justin, that he made, I have the ultimate respect for it because those reflexes are unbelievable, and it's not going to, again, get all the praises because of some good performances in this match. But what he did to make the save on, who was it? I'm looking for the player. It was Aaron Long on a right foot off the corner. It took a bounce right before it got to him and skimmed off someone else. So it changes directions in a very, very quick succession. Roman Berkey makes the saves he's getting paid that we really now know handsomely to make. And he ends up on top of this game, right, with an expected goals that is greater than the actual goals conceded.
Yeah, this one, it came out to David Martinez, who had the goal, and he just tried to drive this down into the ground, which is smart, right? Top of the box, it's congested. And then Aaron Long, it didn't even just skim off him, Jake. Great little flick right here. And Roman Berkey is kind of already going one way. And oh my God, look at that reaching save. Again, I understand Totland had an incredible game. This was massive because, Jake, I was kind of joking with you guys after we went up 2-0, and I'm like, all right, time to take LAFC Moneyline live. And I was like, they're going to get a goal before the 80th, and then we're going to be holding on to our butts to make sure they don't get another. If they would have scored here in the 81st, Jake, I think there's a good chance we drop all 3 points. Yeah. I think you give them that confidence and that kind of energy in the last 10 minutes of this game, but this is almost defeating to them when that should have been in the back of the net, and Roman Berkey is just out here. Also, not even pairing it back into the mixer, putting it out for a corner where no one else can touch it is just unbelievable. I'm going to let this play one more time and then we move on.
Yes, the all-state safe hands, man. I mean, they practice those types of drills and training, those late deflections that change trajectories of balls, and gets a big paw on that one. And yeah, parries it into safety, right? Not back into the mixer. But we talked about parking the bus. I wasn't kidding. I mean, these stats, passes into the final third, they had 4x more than we did. We had 19 to their 81. Passes in the final third, we had 29 to their 167. We had 40 clearances of the ball compared to their 7. So the assignment was understood. I think we knew that we could not compete toe-to-toe with them on this night. But if we stifled them at their own gravy and what they like to do, we could be successful. And I got to give all the credit in the world to the team. It was not pretty. Wasn't the best game, wasn't the best performance, but it's resilient and it's what gets you points. And it's what catapult you back at the table, really, to be in like contention.
I think this is a gritty dub. I would love to be able to look back on this later on the season if we're in the hunt and say, hey, this is when this team got this done. They could have easily dropped these points. They ended up getting the dub. And Jake, like you said, the thing that stood out to me, it's like, yeah, we both had 4 big chances. Well, Jake, their amount of touches in the box, we had 13 to their 35. It shows you that Denny Bwanga and Son were hunting, and we were able to keep them off. But Jake, is there anything else you want to talk about? Otherwise, I can bring us quickly through around the MLS before we hop into DC.
Last thing, I love the not jumping in last night. We were very composed in defense, even though we were sitting back with numbers. And 2, first win of our LAFC. Got to be happy about it.
Yep, absolutely. And also, Jake, you know what I loved about last night? The pitch. It felt so nice to be back there, just having a couple drinks for the game. And everybody needs to get there again next Saturday. Actually, sorry, Tuesday for Houston. Next Saturday day game. The pitch, doing a little day drinking down there is going to be incredible. But, Jake, I'm going to bring us very quickly into around the MLS and the soccer world. Top 3 matches of the 14 that happened last night, obviously, besides our dub. A major one was Inter Miami beats Cincinnati FC 5-3. Messi with 2 goals and assists. Miami scored 3 straight after trailing 3-2. And then these are more kind of closer to home for us. 1, Houston. We were playing them on Tuesday. They just got absolutely rocked at RSL last night. 3-0. All 3 goals came in a 15-minute span in the second half. And then, Jake, what the hell happened in Kansas City in front of like 1,200 fans? They beat LA Galaxy 3-1. And it was, it actually should have been 3-0, but Peck scored in the 89th minute. Kind of call that a garbage time goal. And just a reminder, guys, Joao Klaus was eyeing a return for the City game on July 22nd, but now it was announced last night that he will not return until after that in August. So next time that City plays LA Galaxy out in LA, he will not be on the field, which will make that homecoming even more sweet later on in the year.
Let's talk DC. Justin, so we're on to DC. We're again back to back here. Matchup history for us, it's short. Being an Eastern opponent, 2-2 draw is the only history we have for them in March of 2024. Goal scorers for us that day were Klaus and Leuven. DC, both goals came from Christian Benteke, who's no longer with the team. But 2025 season, this was the wooden spoon winners, guys. They've had a lot of turnover, a lot of transition in the front office, even player wise. Not a lot to write home about in 2025. 2026, though, this is how fast things can change in this league, though, which kind of gives you a little bit more of a pressure to really turn this team around here, and this team being us. Now they're 7th in the East on 16 points, 4-5-4, 16 goals for, which is the 4th least in the league, but only 20 goals against, which is about mid-table. So they're making a lot out of very little, in my opinion. The last 6, they're just about to crack top 10 in the MLS as they're 2-1-3 over that time span, win, loss, draw, and 2-3 overall at home this season. So 3 losses, 2 wins, a mixed bag for sure, Justin. But key home matches, anything stick out to you?
Honestly, Jake, the only wins that they had were against some pretty weak teams. I know that, so they had a 3-2 dub against Orlando at home, but looking at some of the losses, Miami 2-1, Dallas a 4-0 loss at home was tough. And then also their other one that they had at home, their other win was Philadelphia 1-0 at home. So their 2 wins are against the 2 crappiest teams in the MLS. So congrats to you guys on that. And then they just got buried again last night, 3-1 versus Chicago. Ty Baribo put them up in the 41st, but then Chicago scored 3 second-half goals in a span of 25 minutes to put them away.
Expected-wise, how are they progressing? Expected goals, they're 1.3, which is the 7th worst. So, and expected goals against, they're 1.49, which is the 10th worst. So, their expected metrics are kind of lining up to where they're at, in the standings right now. They're not vastly overperforming or underperforming. Half-wise, the one interesting I wanted to call with the halves, Justin, was the second half. They are a very bad team at home in the second half. Mind you, only played 5 games at home this season. So they're 2-3 in that time. But they are not good in that second half. If you blew the whistle, they're the 3rd worst team in the league if you just played second half. So there's a lot of life to live at the end of that. You mentioned Ty Baribo. You mentioned Luis Montano, who are both new signings from this season as well. Justin, are these the 2 players you probably keep the biggest eye on in terms of, DP star power from DC?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ty Baribo, 28-year-old Israeli DP, acquired from Philadelphia Union in December of 25 for $4.6 million. He was an all-star in 25 with 19 goals across all competitions, and he's off to a hot start again this year. 7 goals, which leads DC United, so obviously their main guy to be aware of. 0 assists and just 8 full 90s. So that's almost a goal a game. He's a clinical box striker, and he's strong aerial threat as well. He did score in their 4-4 draw against the New York Rebels back in April. And then Luis Montinu, is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Number
that's
11
close enough.
striker, Romanian DP. They signed him for around $7 million. In 2025, he was the Liga 1 Golden Boot winner in Romania. And in 2026, he's had a pretty strong start. 4 goals, 1 assist in his first MLS season. He's an aggressive forward, loves to shoot early and attack the spaces in behind. Kind of sounds a little bit like Bawanga, but he does give them more of kind of a dual threat versus having to only focus on Ty Baribo.
Yeah, I mean, so those, I mean, right, those get all the name brand recognition, and you might not recognize either of those two names. They have another good Brazilian attacker in Joao Peglau, who's in the left wing and attacking midfielder for them as well. No goals in the season so far for him. He just joined ahead of the 2025 season, so he's newer here, but he's a former Brazil youth international. But he's got 3 assists. He's a creative playmaker. You got to mark him. You got to look for where he is. He's definitely going to have that vision to create those chances for DC. They also have some former City alumni, Justin, some memorable ones at that. Not to mention Chris Durkin, who obviously came from DC, but Lucas Bartlett is playing all 13 matches so far for them this season and has a goal to show for it. So we've got a guy that's playing every minute, every match for them. And you got Jared Stroud stashed away on the bench for DC United. 1 assist in the season. They also have Kojima, but he has not played at all basically this season. So Jared Stroud, Kojima, a little bit forgotten, but Bartlett is a focal point for DC.
Absolutely. And the one thing, if I want to mention from an injury standpoint, there is nothing really that is notable. They have 2 guys that were on the injury report for last night's match, but Sylvan Hefty, number 5 right back, was out last night for a red card that they had in Nashville. And I think he started maybe 10 of their 11 games, but he will be back for the match against us. Jake, one thing that I'm just going to say it right off the top. I forgot the guy's name. Hassan, their right back. Did you hear what DC's coach said last night?
No.
Just basically said that, yeah, he wants to leave the team. I'll look this up if you want to keep moving on. But I think we got a little bit of a locker room issue in DC that we're going to be jumping right into, which I'm absolutely a fan of. I'll find it.
Yeah. Let's get the filmmakers in there and get some good content. How can we beat this team before we get into our 11? Like I said, expected goal deficit, and I've got some data to show for this one. So when I talked about, their performance versus expectations, this is a team that is conceding 1.54 goals per game on a 1.52 expected goals against. So a lot of people look for the story between that. There really is no story there. They are conceding a lot of chances and they're conceding a lot of goals from those chances. So they're going to give you some looks in front of goal. I think that is just clearly there for the taking. You got to take them. I think they also are a pretty aggressive team in terms of tackling, passes per defensive action. Can you bypass those on the dribble and be able to get right to the back line and expose them with numbers running forward? And Justin, we talked about it. That home record, not great. It's not a fortress for this team. They're coming off a pretty abysmal loss as well, where energy levels looked pretty atrocious in the second half. Can you look to build on top of that, like we just built on top of that with LAFC, and keep that momentum going?
Yes. And sorry, Jake, I was just looking this up because I couldn't get past it. The reason that, so after the game last night, DC's coach, he was asked about starting Nikola Markovic at right back. And just a reminder for anybody that recognized that name, he played for NC State, took down SLU. He was the first overall draft pick this past year. He started in last night's match, which is not common. And so reporters were asking him, and the head coach said, that is a fact. He told us that. He wants to leave. And that's talking about Aaron Herrera, their current starting right back that has started, I want to say, almost every match for them.
He's a good player.
Yeah, I'm very confused by what's going on in the locker room at DC. That is just an absolutely wild thing. And apparently, even the article says that he said it very nonchalantly, basically saying that, yeah, he wants to leave. He told us that. So that's what it is.
All right, Justin, not really much to add on the injury front this week. We've already done one, and not much has changed besides Orozco now, who we know will be out at least until after the World Cup. Specifics to come on that. And while I'm still kind of a waiting game, of course. But it leaves us with a very interesting exercise here on the 11, Justin. So I'm going to hop us into our Hoffenberg's predicted starting 11.
Jake, I'm not
keyword.
Go. Rotation.
I'm saying rotation on this one. I went pretty heavy. You saw all my dashes I put in this. I put a lot of options, a lot of flavor profile in this one. But not because I think, we had the luxury to just do this, but I think it's necessary. I think some guys are due some extended runouts here, and you can put the big boys on in the second half if you want for extended runouts, but I want rotation here.
Yeah, and the reason for that, just a reminder for everybody, it's not just like that these guys need it, but also we are wanting to prioritize Tuesday's match against Houston. And so we're away in DC. The boys, which my understanding actually will probably stay there that night and then come home Sunday. At least that's what they have been doing. Maybe they're going to switch things up because they only play then 2 days later if they come home on Sunday. But I do think that we can see some rotation here, Jake. I like, in my opinion, like I don't think Berkey. I think Berkey's gonna be like, no, this is still mine. I don't think we're gonna see a Ben Lunt. But as far as like the back line goes, I know you have Falu Fall here in the left. I don't know if I want to throw him right back in there. Just as a defender's mindset, that's tough. Like, and then the last thing you want to do is make another mistake and let it compound, and then whatever. Fine, we can go Fall. Mbake and McNaughton is what you have. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if we give Mr. Timo a little bit of a rester. You know how I feel about him just in general, but I would say that he is one that has probably the most minutes on the team right now as well. So he could definitely use a rest. And McNaughton, I feel like, hasn't been overplayed. And then also, if you give Timo a rest, unless we're throwing Kyle Hebert out there, I think we're running out of options with the Roscoe out.
Yeah, I think Polvara's got to sit. I think Baumgart's got to sit. Those are the two most important for me. So I've got, Fall, Mbake, and McNaughton, and that's wholesale. I get it. Risky, but I think it's necessary. Across the back, the four ahead of them is where it gets a little more difficult because we're just thin. We're just really thin in that area. I'm not starting Santos again. I don't want to. I have a feeling we might now that I say it out loud. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and revert. I'm going to say Santos is playing. Totland probably needs a rest. So I'm going to play Santos. I am going to put Leuven back in. I just need to keep getting him more minutes. And again, take him out early again in this game. Don't play him the full 90 here. But Leuven and maybe next to Durkin. See what that pivot looks like, and get Edelman down. And again, bring Durkin back into the fold. The midfield was a little bit tricky last night. I liked what Leuven had to bring. Apparently, he was going to play a more advanced role before the Orozco injury kind of changed things up because Orozco was inverting before he got hurt. I think Wallum comes back and retains his spot at right wing back.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Santos is starting, to be honest. I think that they're gonna like the lift. He did get a large number of minutes on Wednesday, but that also I don't think he's going to be our starter going into Tuesday. So I'm not really concerned about that. Just run him into the ground. So I'm fine with that. I would say Edelman already had his rest. Durkin, I think you could just go Edelman Durkin, to be honest. And then you bring in Leuven maybe in like the 60th, and that's one of those where it's like
fair.
That one Barcelona game where they like rested all their guys, and then you see at halftime, you see Neymar, Messi, and Suarez come out, and you're like, oh my god, what's happening? I like a little bit of that feel and throw a little Leuven out there. And then you move your way up. Honestly, Jake, we could give Hartel a little bit of a rester. He's also one of those guys though, Jake, that like I think he'll be like Berkey and be like, no, I'm good to go. Play me. I'll figure it out. I'm a professional. I'm going to lead this team, and I'm going to take us there. So I would leave him up there with that. You have Toy Shirt up there. I don't think that we're going to be seeing him anymore. I just don't think.
Yeah, I don't want to see Sangbin up there, but for the Hartel thing, I agree with you. We just have no one else that can create like he can. So unfortunately, like, sorry, buddy, lace him up. We're going again, but pull him off as early as you can. I would let Sangbin go because I think he has made it known that he's going to do well in that position for right now. Yeah, and I think if Toy Shirt's in the mix, you think about him. Otherwise, play Mackay Joyner. For the love of God, let him free. We're manifesting it here right now, Justin. But who's starting up top for you in this one?
I think they're going to go back to Cordova because I don't know. This is a tricky one because like I would love to see Betcher get some more minutes, but I think if you don't want to switch it up so much that then you lose your rhythm either. So I think Cordova could go. And I think obviously he's been coming off. I think he went full 90 this last game because I think McScorley came in for him in the 90th, which I also wanted to mention from a subs perspective last game. Really thought that we might have seen him a little Mackay Joyner, but no, it was McScorley for Cordova, and then Mackay just kept jogging down on the sidelines. I would love to see Mackay Joyner up there up top of them. But Jake, it's going to be a mixed bag. What is your key for this game going out to DC?
My key is to keep up being clinical. DC's going to give you some looks. They'll give you at least a handful. And that's not even by just sheer quality of your team. Got to convert. Got to absolutely, those big chances converted have to be really, really as close to 100% as possible for us. So got to convert your chances. I'm going to go straight to my predictions, bet. And what else I want to see here, Justin, because my prediction, I'm going 2-2 draw on this one. I think, this team, DC, could be a little leaky, as can we. It could be a little bit of a track meet, depending on what the teams want out of this one. But I am going for my bet here, Justin, on a first half clean sheet. It's a little juicy. I'm not going to lie. That's at -140. So I'm a little bit steered away from that. But if you want a little more on this, both teams to score over 2.5, I feel pretty good about as well. And that's at just about even money right now. So that's where I'm leaning for this game.
I'm on the flip side on how I
know.
think this game's going to be going. My goal for this game, Jake, is no cheap goals. I feel like we've actually done a little bit better with that. I mean, last night was a little bit of a cheap one in the ball and behind, but like if we can just continue to make teams play through us and instead of like giving something up, and I think we've had some dangerous moments last night trying to play out of the back. Just don't give one away and let these guys back into it. Like if you score a goal, treat it like it's precious gold and don't give up a cheap one. So that's my goal for this game. But Jake, I'm going with a 1-1 draw. I think it's going to be a low scoring affair. I don't think that this DC team really has that much attacking prowess outside of Ty Baribo. And depends on our rotation here, but I really don't think that we're going to have a whole lot of chances either. I could see this being a very midfield heavy game. Both of these teams know that it's like, all right, we just both played on Wednesday. It's Saturday. Let's just try to like shake hands and get out of here. So a City win is plus 185, DC plus 130, a draw plus 250. Jake, maybe we just need to both bet on the draw.
That's fair.
Right now, I'm taking the under 2.5 at minus 113. And if I can find the prop on DraftKings, I'll be hammering a Stroud yellow card, parlayed with a Durkin yellow card as well, maybe each other. So I just think that would be pretty funny.
Oh my God. The odds on a Durkin getting a yellow on Stroud or the vice versa, I would eat that alive. That would be so enjoyable. I mean, just two of just the most rugged dudes that are just looking for yellows, looking for legs to chop down.
Dude, and they're going to be crossing paths. Like Stroud has been getting 80% of his minutes in these last couple games, and he's going to be probably in the area of Durkin, doing a little chirp in his ear, a little at the heels. And I wouldn't be like, I'm sure they're telling Durkin, man, just focus out there, don't get a yellow. But once you get Stroud on your heels, it's very hard to do that. We remember that back from 2023.
We've got a semi-earlier kickoff in this one. It's 6:30, given we're on the East Coast in DC for this, but that will be on Saturday. Cannot wait to see if we can round out what is shaping up to be a nice week. Really, really hoping the boys can bring us some more points home. And we'll be back with you all next week for another recap and preview as the train rolls on. In Houston, the quarterfinals are on deck. We're not going there yet, Justin. We're still focused on here and the now. But that's coming up, and boy, I am freaking excited. So there's a lot going on here, Justin.
Yeah, shout out as well. Shout out to the pitch. Get down there on Tuesday's match. And yes, we're going to be doing all this. But I want to give people a shout out and a heads up now. Go get those tickets. What do they have them for? $15 out there? Like, it's going to be another beautiful night in St. Louis on a Tuesday on a game that matters. Like, if you think that this season's already kind of in turmoil and we're struggling, this is an Open Cup match. Win or go home. Get to Energizer Park.
Awesome. Well, in the meantime, folks, we'll be back with you. Roll on, City. In the meantime, all for City.